landlord in the Bronx was hit with a $1 million fine and other penalties for rejecting Section 8 tenants. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of New York, specifically the Bronx, okay? And it has to do with a landlord who was basically penalized for rejecting Section 8 tenants, okay? I talk about this topic a lot because, in my opinion, it should be up to the landlord whether they want to participate in this program or not. And there's a lot of really, really good reasons to not want to participate. So in this story, we're talking about a landlord who owns a pretty large apartment complex. I'm pretty sure it's a few thousand units, right? And it had a very low number of tenants in there who were using the vouchers. And so that obviously rose some red flags with the local, progressives, and they got pretty upset about it. So they look into it further and they realize that, hey, this landlord is rejecting Section 8 tenants because they don't meet the income requirements for the apartment building. So a lot of landlords, right, in a place where, like New York, that has the laws that say, hey, you must accept Section 8 vouchers, what they'll do is they'll create other requirements in order to somehow still be able to reject them. And one of them that a lot of landlords use is this whole income requirement thing where they say, oh, well, we accept the vouchers, but you still have to meet our income threshold of X, whatever that is. In this case, I believe it was $62,000 of income per year. But, the progressives figured this out and they were like, well, if you make 62 grand a year, you don't qualify for the voucher in the first place. Exactly. You think the landlord didn't know this? Okay. This is part of the game. Part of the game. A lot of landlords play it. This one got caught. And unfortunately, they had to pay the price. And I'm going to go over this whole thing in just a second. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So if you lived in a place that had laws that required you to accept Section 8 tenants, would you play ball, accept those tenants when you don't really want them? Would you get out of the rental business? Would you invest somewhere else? Or would you do like this landlord did and come up with some other way to reject that tenant and hope for the best? This didn't turn out well for this landlord, so that might not be the best idea. Anyway, let's get into it. This article is coming from Gothamist.com, and it says, Bronx landlord hit with $1 million penalty for housing discrimination. Yeah, housing discrimination. I mean, you're reading that, you would think, oh, this person didn't rent to somebody because of their race, and this person's a racist. No, it has nothing to do with that. But let's see what it does have to do with. The owner of a sprawling East Bronx housing complex accused of discriminating against low-income renters agreed to pay New York City $1 million and reserve hundreds of units for tenants with rent subsidy, city officials said on Thursday. The City Commission on Human Rights and the nonprofit Fair Housing Justice Center reached a settlement with Parkchester Preservation Management after a years-long investigation found that the company engaged in housing discrimination by blocking tenants with housing subsidies from renting more than 6,000 apartments across its Parkchester development. So yeah, this is a very large apartment complex, okay? 6,000 units within it. So, it sounds to me like they didn't want to accept Section 8, but let me continue with the story. The company will also reserve 850 units for tenants with government-funded housing vouchers, including the federal Section 8 program, according to the terms of the settlement. This announcement is a win for the everyday New Yorkers in search of safe, stable housing and a warning sign for any predatory group trying to harm tenants, Mayor Eric Adams said in a statement. State and city laws prohibit landlords from refusing to accept tenants because they use government aid to pay rent, a pervasive practice known as source of income discrimination. No, it's not a source of income discrimination. It's not income. How many times do I got to say this, right? If you don't pay taxes on it, it's not income. Okay? So them say, oh, this is a source of income and it's discrimination. No. These people, if you get a housing voucher and it's income, then you have to pay taxes on it, just like I do from my job or from my rental income or from my YouTube income. I got to pay taxes on all of those things because they are actual income. Okay? They're not some, what do they call it? Entitlement. Okay? That's what this is. It's an entitlement. So if they want to say entitlement discrimination, well, yeah, that's exactly what it is. But they're using misleading words in order to garner sympathy, right? It's how they use language to try to change the story in people's heads. And it's just garbage. It's complete garbage, and people should stop falling for it. I don't fall for it, and I'm pretty sure the other landlords on here aren't falling for it either. Parkchester's management did not respond to messages left with its office or attorney. As part of the agreement, Parkchester will also pay up to $63,750 in damages to applicants who were denied apartments, and will pay $150,000 to the Fair Housing Justice Center, which began the investigation in 2016. So now they're paying damages to people who didn't get rented an apartment. Like, what damages did you suffer? Oh, I could have been living there. That's not like you didn't actually suffer anything, okay? And paying $150,000 to this far left wing, whatever, it's garbage. It's a bunch of garbage. I'm sick of this stuff. Like, to me, this is just just frustrating. It is so frustrating reading about this. So it says the Parkchester website touts the complex as one of the safest communities in New York City, with round-the-clock security, proximity to the 6 train, and on-site parks, schools, shops, medical offices, as well as an array of restaurants. So why do you think the place is so safe? Because they have income requirements, because they do good tenant screening, okay? And if you start letting in a bunch of Section 8 tenants, I wonder if the problems within the community are going to start to increase. Okay, for the other tenants, they're going to be like, hey, this place used to be safe, but now we got a whole bunch of people in here on vouchers, and guess what? Man, crime has gone up, vandalism. Like, it's odd, but people who get handouts from the government, I'm not saying all of them, right? But they have a higher propensity towards crime. They have a higher propensity toward violence. And you know what? That is why a lot of landlords say they don't want to deal with it. That is why. So imagine, the landlord of this large apartment community wants to keep this community safe, and keeping the community safe is what attracts tenants in there in the first place. For me personally, if I am a middle-class person, I'm living in this apartment complex, and then a whole bunch of, loud and rowdy lower income people want to move in there and live in the same place that I would work my butt off for to live in, it's safe and all that, and they bring crime problems, filth with them, I don't want to live there anymore. That's just me. And you know what? The people who are paying market rates, you know what they're going to do? They're going to vote with their feet. They're going to leave until this place turns into a giant 100% subsidized place. That's what happens to these places. They slowly fall down until they become just garbage. That's probably what the owners were trying to prevent. Unfortunately, you have everybody working against them. These tenant rights groups, these city lawyers, all these people, right? And meanwhile, they don't live in a big community full of Section 8 people. They don't have to deal with that nonsense, okay? They live far away where it's safe, and I always find that funny that they always want to impose upon other people stuff that they personally would not want to deal with. Anyway, interesting article. Let me know what you think in the comments down below.